remember the first night, without spoiling it, the first night there's a charge to you, and then you go back to your room in complete silence until the next day. And I remember walking through the mountains and sort of saying, Lord, I don't want to waste all this time. I am here. And seriously, if you got something to say to me, I will do my best to try to hear it. And I think that was the door opening for a change. Instead of church, religion, denomination, he said, hey, I've just been pursuing you. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. Revelations 3:20 was my theme thing when I was a lay director, and it was just, I'm standing there. But you have to let me in. You have to want me. I'm pursuing you. I radically care for you, but I have no handle on my side of the door. You have to open the door and invite me into your life. And when that happens, Proverbs blows up. That's what I sort of.
That's cool. I'm going to quote Proverbs 3:9 and 10. And of course, this makes me think of you, and maybe talk about how God's worked through you. And it says, honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all your crops. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing, and your vats will brim with new wine. So talk a little bit more about the favor God gave you, even when you didn't know he was doing it with your business, and how that's been, and some of the joys and maybe pitfalls of running a successful business, and then how you've been able to be a blessing through that.
Yeah. So it starts from fear, when you're an entrepreneur, I was in a firm that was a big firm that we started, and the long and short is in 1983, it crashed and burned. And we had 3 offices, and we had 5 partners and 40 CPAs, and that crashed. And in that moment, I ended up with this office, which was one of the 3 offices, and partners left and people left. And so then you're fearful on how you're going to make this thing work, and that sort of thing. And honest to God, this was during a journey where I was doing music at church, and I was doing the confirmation stuff, but I would not be telling the truth if I said I had a wonderful relationship with Jesus that's personal as my Lord and Savior. So I just went along. I rode the wave and the path, and I worked hard, but I worked hard motivated by fear, or not being able to
fear of what? Fear of being broke.
Not having the money to pay the bills the next month.
Okay.
You have, because you're just eating what you kill. I mean, you're working and taking anything on you can possibly take on, and so then I would work all the time, and so then that caused me to be a relatively poor father, a relatively poor husband, because I gave them my spare time, not my precious time. I gave them what was left in an empty tank. But I thought I was doing the right thing. Fast forward, then all of a sudden that changed, and prosperity came. And
how long did it take?
Well, survival probably took 5 years to feel like
you're stable
till the late 80s.
Yeah.
And then I began to feel like my sea legs I had gotten my sea legs. I think that's what they call it, when you feel like you're comfortable in your environment, and you have clients and money's coming in and you're paying the bills. Then certain things changed in the way we conduct business and the business model, and I was blessed by the top advisor for Raymond James in the world, who became my friend, and he coached me into how to do some other things, which allowed us to begin to make more prosperity. But then somewhere in the mid-90s, certainly the early 2000s leading up to today, it became perfectly clear that our prosperity was not from ourselves. And so the tsunami of prosperity began to come. And at some point, now that you're in relationship with Christ, you realize, is this prosperity? I mean, I'm sitting in the chair doing the work, right? But is this prosperity related to Jeff, or is it a greater calling of some sort that God is saying, I'm giving you favor. And so because there's a lot of people who work hard as I do or harder, don't make what I make. So then the challenge is, if it's not 100% for me, if my barn, you like to argue, well, my barn is full and so I don't need to do it anymore, so I'll cut the umbilical cord because I have enough. But the challenge that Connie and I, and she's, my wife, Connie, she's so well-grounded that it became clear that this was prosperity that we didn't, quote, deserve or earn, but we were being called to be stewards of.
Yeah, interesting.
And so the challenge became, what are we supposed to do with the prosperity that seems to be surplus, right? So we have a belief that you have to be a channel, not a reservoir, because if you're not a channel, then the money doesn't come out. And why would God fill a reservoir that had no channels? So we believe that when things are in front of us and it's not a hardship, we're called to respond to that as a channel. And then we have to be radical. And radical giving is a message from Joyce Meyer. She gave us an example of that years ago, that we then said, okay, I love being radical because you can't outgive God. The last piece of that equation is that's why I work. That's why I continue to work. I probably haven't had to work for money, for groceries, for a long time. But I love what I do, and I don't call it work. I help people doing things which I think they need the help. I also believe that I'm not free to cut off the umbilical cord to the prosperity that I was constructed, and our businesses were constructed for me to guide the ship and to be a prudent sharer of the prosperity in the reservoir. That I can't just stop and say I have enough.
Down on the